Hey y'all, this is the driver. Alright, so we got us another load here out of Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Picked up this load here of cotton lint. Surprised it's on a flatbed, but coming out of UPS here, which is where we're at. It's kind of surprising at the same time. I don't know. Anyhow, so we're heading out to Casper, Wyoming. A nice easy ride. Let's see, we got like 256, yeah, about 250 miles. So it's going to be a nice easy ride. And so let's go ahead and get going. Get this thing fired back up. See one vehicle in my mirror. Pull out of here. So yeah, I found us this load here. Wasn't exactly what I was going for. I originally was coming over for a load that was going down to, I think it was going down to northern Arizona. I can't remember the town now. But when I got over here, this one was there too. So I went ahead and grabbed this, which is it's odd because how the loads change on here. They've gotten a little bit more, I guess, I don't know if I'd call it realistic, but now when you go and look at loads, it refreshes over time. You got so much time to get there, and I know that's always been there, but I'm seeing it more frequent now than I used to. So, anyhow, play games today. I had an issue when I first started, guys. So if you see my steering wheel doing weird stuff, right now I think I corrected it. As you can see, the steering wheel's not moving, hands not on the controller. But when I first got on, it was doing kind of like the stick drift thing where the steering wheel was just slowly turning to the right. And I know I've seen that in a few of my other videos, but I thought it was just because of the way I was parked. So, what are y'all doing here? Sleep over there? So I'm not sure what's going on with all that. I know I took that a little fast. So yeah, so we got this load here. We're gonna head over to Wyoming. Get this kicked off. Nice little short run. I'm trying to keep them short. That's part of the reason why I went ahead and grabbed this one instead of doing the original one. The original one would have been about 600 something miles. So, we do the shorter one, keep the videos a little shorter. Curve kind of caught me off guard there a little bit more than I thought it would. I know I'm kind of cruising these curves a little fast, guys. Drop the gears. Yeah, it's a nice sunny day currently right here, Colorado. Here. So before I start the video, like I said, I'm not wanting to do scripted stuff, but I was trying to think of topics beforehand, before I started this, we could talk about, discuss going down the road. And I got several different ideas, a couple of ideas. I'm on the fence whether I'm going to do those, and I'm not going to mention those right now, but there are things I am contemplating on discussing. But what I thought about today is talking about how I got into trucking. So, this summer, actually it was July, was marked 21 years that I've been in the trucking industry. I've had my CDL. I've actually been around it a little bit longer than that because I worked for a company doing dock work. That's kind of how I got into it. But actually, my love for trucking, or the current love I had at the time, it started way before then. So let's get our turn made here real quick. Yeah, let's go. Truck wound up real quick. crazy. Okay, so my first love of trucking actually started when I was a very young child. So I don't know exactly the age. I would have to ask my mom, and she's not home right now. But my uncle was a truck driver when I was little, and I don't really remember when he got started, but I know he trucked in the '60s. I think the '60s and the '70s, if I remember correctly. I know he was trucking in the '80s because I was born in '82, and so at the time we lived in Florida. My dad was in the military, and my mom's family, well, most of all the family on both sides are all from Texas. And my uncle in particular, he was from Texas too. And he, being a truck driver, he drove around a lot. Well, he ended up over nearby us. So my parents got him permission to park his truck on the military base at a designated area. And he got to spend, I think it was a night or so with us. So while he was there, and I don't know if it was the day he showed up or while he was there or when he was leaving, but I got to sit on his lap as a kid and drive his truck around in the parking lot. Of course, I wasn't really driving, but you know how it is. As a kid, it's just being able to hold that wheel, right? So I think that's when I got the trucking bug. And I always had a big thing for truck driving ever since then, even as a kid. I had toy semi trucks and stuff that I played with, and drove them all over the house and through the yard and all that stuff. So that's kind of when my trucking kind of started in a way. But you fast forward until I was in my 20s, and I got a job working for a guy. He was actually my next door neighbor, and he needed a guy to work overnight on the dock at his small trucking company. It was a local company. It was a local cartage deal. They delivered goods around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I lived in Fort Worth at the time. So I told him, yeah, sure, I'd take a job working on a dock, and it was overnight. For the most part, I was the only one there. When I got there, there was, the ending crew. I think I got there around 8 or so in the evening, and everybody pretty much was gone by 10 or so. So my job at that time was to just sit on the dock and babysit, more or less. It wasn't kids, and it really wasn't the freight. They had a new company come in. They were doing, they had a couple of companies in their building, and one of the companies was a donation company, kind of like Goodwill here in the U.S. And their trucks would go out through the day and pick up a lot of stuff, and they would come to the dock at night. Usually it was anywhere from 10 o'clock at night till 5 in the morning. They went around during the nighttime. They started in the evening around 6 or 8, and they would go around to all their spots where they had their donation boxes, and they would pick up anything that was left there, and then they would come to our dock, and they would pull it out onto the dock, kind of sort through it, and put most of it onto semi-trailers. What they were doing with it afterwards, I don't have a clue. I dealt with the company for a very short time. So while I was there, the people that I was working for realized that, hey, we're just paying a guy to sit here and basically be a security guard, and we could have him doing more things than that. So they asked me if I knew how to drive a forklift, and I told them no, but I'd be willing to learn. So they taught me how to run a forklift, which I learned pretty quick. And what they had me doing at night, while them guys weren't there, they had me loading all the trucks for the next morning. Mostly it was just straight box trucks, and we had a few semi-trailers. And I would load them overnight between the times the guys weren't there unloading their other trucks when I had to babysit them. And then eventually it got to where the nighttime manager, when I would come in, he would have me drive a truck. They had a couple of trucks that didn't require CDL, then we had a few vans. So he would have me do other stuff just to kind of help out and get everybody going home earlier. And in a short amount of time, I was driving a commercial grade truck with no license. No commercial license, that is, which is illegal. Mostly it was around in the yard, which is legal. You don't have to have a commercial license in a parking lot. You just have to have it when you're on the road. But at times they would ask me to take a truck over to a place on the airport, which we're really close to. The chances of getting in trouble were very slim, but it was still stupid and illegal. And I'm not proud of that, but I did learn how to drive and maneuver and things like that way. So after that, I decided to go ahead and try to get my CDL. So I went down and I did basically what most high school kids do when they want to get their driver's license. I've got the book, I read the book, I studied it, and I went down to the local driver's license office. It's called differently everywhere in the world, but I went down there, told them I wanted to take my written test for my commercial license. I took all the written tests, passed them, and then I had a permit. Once the office caught wind that I had went and got that permit, they wanted to switch me to a more of an evening shift. So they hired a guy to do my job of loading trucks and babysitting that other company. And they had me start coming in around, I think it was 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would come in and I would help out the night crew, getting stuff dropped off. Most of what we were doing is we had a lot of customers that we picked up throughout the day, and a lot of that stuff came to our dock, got offloaded off the truck, and kind of got sorted. And then that stuff got shipped out that night to the various delivery points. And those delivery points in the evening was out on the airport. That's how I ended up driving on the airport all the time, like I did. So I would go out to Delta and American Airlines, Lufthansa, and different ones. What are these kids? Holy crap, hold on, let's get where we doing. So I would come in and do that. I would come in and help out. We had a few customers that we couldn't pick up till 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. One company was a cell phone manufacturer. What are you doing here, dude? Come on. So yeah, that's how I more or less got into it. After I'd been doing that for a few months, I got sideways with one of the managers. We didn't see eye to eye, and he told me if I didn't like how he was running the business, then I just needed to go get another job. I told him that, that he wasn't desperate for a worker. I guess I would just move on, and I quit. I only quit for a couple of weeks. I ended up quitting, and while I was not working, my dad asked me how serious I was into getting my CDL, and I told him I was real serious. So he asked me, if I could afford to go ahead and get the license, and I told him, I said, well, I'm about, I think I was $50 short. I think the truck was like, oh crap, there's a car there. Dang it. Why did I not see that? I saw that red truck. I should have looked again. That's my fault. Anyhow, I told my dad I was about $50 or so shy of having enough money to get my commercial license to go take the test. At the time, I could go down to a company that rented trucks specifically for taking your CDL test. It was a little single axle day cab truck. It was an old GMC automatic transmission, and they had this old 28-foot trailer, and that's what they did. It was $250 US dollars, and this was in 2003. And so I called them up and said, yeah, I want to get my CDL. I already have my permit. And the guy's like, okay, well, you'll have to come in. This is our schedule. You come in one day and we'll meet here at the certain time. And it was, I don't know, it was like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. He said everybody goes on a little driving thing, and we have to turn here. Everybody goes on the little driving course, and after the driving course, once you are good enough, then he will let you know when you can go ahead and go take your test, your actual driving test. So I agreed to all that, no big deal. And I came in the first day, and on the very first day, they had a flat on the truck, so we had to stand around and wait on that. And finally we get going. It was me and one other guy there, which was good because there wasn't a whole lot of room in that truck. The other guy, he drives first, and he's struggling, and I'm not gonna knock anybody. if you're willing to take the time to learn, you know, I will be willing to teach you. And this guy was just struggling. He was trying to learn how to do everything and all that stuff. And so I was just sitting there, you know, just patiently waiting my turn and all that fun stuff. Finally, the instructor said, okay, well, we need to get this other guy here another shot. And he was talking about me. And he's like, okay. He said, well, let's see what you can do. He goes, we got about an hour left. And mind you, we'd already wasted a few hours on the other guy. So I was a little mad about that because, I mean, the way I'm looking at it, if I'm paying you, I should get my time worth as well. But anyhow, the guy, what are you doing, boss? Okay. That was idiotic there. So anyhow, I get in the driver's seat, and the guy's like, all right. He goes, so what we're going to do is we're going to go for a little cruise, and then we'll come back to the parking lot, considering the other guy already did all his parking lot stuff, then I would finish up in the parking lot. So we go for a drive, and he's like, he goes, I thought you didn't have a CDL. I said, I don't. He's like, and he doesn't say anything. We get to the parking lot, and he said, all right, you need to do your parking maneuvers. And he told the other guy, and the other guy could just go ahead and go home at that point. But the other guy chose to stay and watch and see what happens. So he stays and watches, and I go and do all my parking maneuvers. And the instructor looks at me and he says, what's your schedule tomorrow? I said, my schedule's open right now. He said, good. He goes, I want you to be here at 6 a.m. He goes, not here actually. He goes, I want you to be next door at the DMV, which is what they called it in Texas. I was living in Texas at the time. He goes, I want you there at 6 a.m. in line. He goes, I want you to be in front of that line, as far in front of that line as you can possibly get. And I want you to take your driving test tomorrow. I said, really? I said, I don't need no more practice runs? He goes, no. He goes, you know how to drive. I'm like, okay. So I show up the next day at 6 a.m. I actually got there a little early, and I got in line before they opened up, and I don't think they opened up till almost 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, so I stood there for a little while. Got in there. I go and do my driving test, and so everything went good with the driving test except for one little thing. And that one little thing was that they have you do a lot of tests, obviously for it's a test. So in commercial driving, for those that do not know, you every morning you do a pre-trip inspection. And I'm not going to get into the details of how pre-trip inspection works, but what I will tell you is that in that pre-trip inspection, there is a spot where you do, it's called an air brake bleed down test, and you're basically checking the system for air leaks. And there's 2 different tests that you do, and I did those 2 tests without any issues. But every time I went to go reach and grab my seatbelt, oh God, I thought that cord was gonna pull out. So every time I went to grab my seatbelt, the lady kept asking me a question or would have me do something else, and I never put my seatbelt on. And in part of your test, if you break any law, even a seatbelt violation, you automatically fail. So, amongst all the confusion, I never put my seatbelt on. And the lady's finally like, okay, well, we've wasted enough time, let's go. And she rushes me to take off, and I haven't even put my belt on, and I've forgotten about it at this point. And as soon as my front tires hit the pavement of the road coming out of the parking lot, she goes, failed. I'm like, what? Why did I fail? So I ain't even got out of the parking lot yet. She goes, you forgot to put your seatbelt on. I said, well, I was trying to put it on, but you kept deterring my attention. And she goes, not my problem, failed. I'm like, okay. I said, do I just need to turn around and go back to the parking lot? She goes, oh no, we're going to do the rest of the road test, but you've already failed because of that. So I went around their little obstacle course deal. They have you drive a certain route, and they change it, but they have you drive different routes through town. You get on the freeway for a little bit, and then get back off the freeway. You go through like an industrial park and different stuff like that. And after you do all that, at the end of the route puts you right back in the parking lot. So when we got back to the parking lot, and this lady was very rude, and she goes, well, you still failed, but you passed the rest of the driving test. You failed because you didn't put your seatbelt on. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to argue with you because I know why. So she said, all you got to do is come back tomorrow. So After all that, I told the Jesus Prime. I knew you guys were stupid, but Jesus, holy moly! Sorry, guys. um. So anyhow, I go back the next day, and I get a different person that's doing the driving test, and she, she still has me do all the regular tests like I was talking about, the pre-trip stuff where you do the air breakdown, the air leak breakdowns, and lights, check your tires, things like that. And after all that, then I need to, so she, the lady, she goes, the second day lady, she said, well, I see you've already pretty much passed everything. I said, yeah. I said, as far as I know, I passed everything, but I failed because I failed to put my seatbelt on because I kept getting interrupted trying to put it on. And she's like, okay. She goes, so that's the only reason you failed? I'm like, yep, that's the only reason that I failed my test. And she goes, okay. And I just happened to look over at her, and she looked at me, and she goes, you put your seatbelt on, young man. I'm like, okay. So I put my seatbelt on, and she said, okay, let's go. I'll tell you where to turn. And we literally drove around for 30 minutes, chit-chatting and talking and whatnot. 30 minutes later, I pulled back in the parking lot. She shook my hand and told me I had a CDL. So that was the first pain of getting into trucking. The next pain was getting a job. And I will say that I did go back to the company that I quit working for because it didn't even make money. Even though I didn't agree with them, I went back to work for them to get a little bit of experience going because they would hire me. Um, and I only worked with them long enough to find another job. And I went with a trucking company driving over the road through word of mouth. And after that, here I am 21 years later. And we'll talk more about some of the other companies I've worked for, maybe some of the stuff I've hauled for, at least while we're still running out in areas that I don't have any good stories. But, so we're literally around the corner, guys. So that story kind of timed out just right on my back history of getting into trucking. We're going to get in here and get parked. And, let's see. Where's this place? Corner. Alright. Oh, right back to UPS. Alright. My turn. This is about a weird place to get into. Did I take the wrong driveway, maybe? Oh, I did take the wrong driveway. Dad burn it. Okay. Alright. Let's do this. In real life, that would work, but... Here. Okay, so that was my fault. Wrong darn driveway. I saw the sign, so I took the first driveway, so... I really wish they would fix these. I don't like this. You have to come in and then go like this to get to the trigger. Alright. Where do you guys want this? You know what? I don't think I've actually done a backing in job before for you guys. Usually I skip through a lot of this because we're in a hurry and I'm trying to keep the videos a little shorter. I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this today. Now, normally I do not like blindside parking, and that's where you're backing up to your right. Also known as blindside backing. But on here, I think we can probably manage this. And for a first attempt, I'm not going to get it. We're too far off center. By the way, when I was doing the dock working thing, this is what I did every night. I had to move trucks and trailers in and out of the dock because we only had 5 doors and 12 trucks. So I had to move trucks and trailers around. So my first almost 6 months of trucking was in reverse. But there you go, guys. Delivered. And probably the first time you guys have seen me actually park a trailer. Oh, I got a parking challenge, 5 of 20. I didn't know there was an achievement for that, so we might have to do more of those. So let's see, how do we do here? Well, we made a little over 14 grand. Got a little bit more XP. I'm not even concerned with level at this point. I'm high in levels, so let's see. Go back into external here. Traders drops. What we're gonna do is we're going to park this thing out of the way somewhere. Where I think we'll just park right here, at least for the minute. Before we take the next job, I'll probably go see if I can get us some fuel. So, but well, guys, there we have it. Nice run done. But the backstory was a little interesting about how I got into truck driving, guys. I'm sorry if it was kind of boring. Trying to think of things to talk about, and that was one of my ideas, was to talk about how I got into trucking, and maybe some of the other stories related to trucking that's not really on the road type thing. So, anyhow, guys, so that's gonna be it for this time, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.